order this meeting of the Hartford Selectboard on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024 at 5:35 p.m. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would anyone like to lead us this evening?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ida. Order of agenda, no order of agenda changes. So we will go to public comment. We'll start with people in the room, then hear from anyone who's joining us by Zoom. People will have 5 minutes to speak. Please go up to the microphone, identify yourself and town or village of residence, and please address the select board as a whole and refrain from personal attacks. So we'll start in the room. Would anyone like to make any public comment?
We need this super timer tonight.
See no comment in the room. We'll see if there's anyone on Zoom.
Nick, could you make me a panelist? Thank you. There is one hand up on Zoom.
Okay, let's hear from that person.
All right, Joyce Perkins, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to just say that I hope all of you got your invitation to come to the alumni community things on June 22nd. We are really looking forward to this to be a community outing where people can really get together and kind of reunite and have some fun. So that was one of the things. And also come by our booth. We are actually having a booth on the 19th, and come by and say hello to us at the block party. And also the last thing I just wanted to say is as part of the PMT, they will also have a presence there in person that day. So come by and see all of us, and hope to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. It's very helpful information. Do we have any hands up on Zoom?
That was it. No other hands up at the moment.
Okay, we'll end public comment and go to select board comments. Kim, do you have anything tonight?
I just want to elaborate on Joyce's comment. The PMT is the process management team of the community safety assessment group. So the PMT are the community members who are part of that committee. So they're seeking input from folks via survey, which is available on the town website, as well as different focus groups and things. So thanks for that.
Kim, Brandon, any comment?
No, Mr.
Mary?
I just want to ask Kim, if people hadn't filled out the survey, would they be able to do this at this time, or is it closed by then?
No, it's open till the end of June.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Thank you, Mary. Ida, any comment?
Yes. So I just have a hopefully quick question for the select board. This is not something that's on our agenda tonight, but it's something that came up at the last meeting, and Kim and I touched base about it. So in terms of the idea of potentially having a policy for community members to bring resolutions to the select board, just want to get a read on if anyone feels strongly about needing a policy in place before they can make a decision about the ceasefire resolution that's on the agenda for next week. Does anyone feel strongly about first needing a policy in order to vote on that resolution?
A little short notice to have something affect that, isn't it?
Well, we would ask them to postpone. If we first needed to make a policy, then we would reach out to them and say, we're going to do the policy on the 11th, and then you can come back at a later meeting.
I see no reason to postpone it. I know where I'm going to vote. So.
I feel that a separate resolution policy isn't necessary. This was brought to us like a lot of citizen requests are. We put them on the agenda and we heard from them. They asked us to take a specific action. Then they asked us to delay that, but it's coming up next meeting. But in any event, I don't really know what a separate resolution or a separate policy would say about resolutions. You know, I mean, they just came to us and asked us to consider it, and we gave them the chance to come talk to us. So I don't really feel the need for a separate policy.
mean, it's my preference, but I'm not. And I'm happy to entertain the request without it. If the majority of the board is consensus that we don't need one.
Not seeing a strong consensus in favor of one. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
anything else then?
No, nothing else.
Sue, any comment?
No, thank you.
Lanny, any comment?
Not tonight.
I would just mention, as Joyce mentioned, the alumni parade is on the 22nd, I believe. They're looking for select board members to ride in a convertible. I attended last year and it was great. I actually drove with Dennis in his vehicle, which was actually quite fun. So if anyone's interested, please let John know.
Kim's the only one I haven't talked to about it.
Okay, so everyone, if anyone's interested, let John know.
I responded to the group. I thought I responded. I'm working with it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, that'll end select board comments. So we're getting into the heart of our stuff tonight. So we'd like to try and adopt our flagpole banner policy tonight.
Light pole.
Light pole policy. So there were a couple, there was distributed a draft banner policy, and I think there's just a couple open questions we need to hash out, right? So one is how long we would allow banners to hang from the poles. The initial policy had 30 days with a max of 60 days, so you could have two 30-day periods. And then the other question is how many light poles can be used for this? I think those are the open questions, and if we want to just take them maybe one at a time, we can, and try to get the details of this policy hammered out. So if we want to start with the duration, like I said, the original was 30 days with a max of 60. That sounded okay to me. I don't know if board members have other thoughts on a longer duration or on a shorter duration. Hopefully we can figure this out. Lynn?
One thing that I do not see on this that I think needs to be here is an exception policy.
An exceptions policy?
An exception to policy statement, because there are some banners which come before the town that have significant value to be left up there longer than the period stated within. And I believe that we should have an exception to policy to allow those particular banners to come before this and be proposed. If we have something that say, such as a commemoration of our anniversary or commemoration of railroading or something, because the community was known for railroading, maybe we want to have it in there for a longer period of time, we should have that ability to do that. But without an exception to policy, that doesn't allow us to have something up there for longer periods of time. Say if we want to have Welcome to Hartford up there.
The distinction is that this policy refers to outside groups, not the town itself.
Well, but if we have an outside group that, say the Historical Society, if there's an outside group comes up to us and says that we would like a banner celebrating, 250 years of railroading in the town of Hartford, or something of that nature, that's a historical aspect and definitely worthy of longer than the time element listed on here. So I think that there should be an exception to policy element to this. There are many worthy things that possibly come before us that could be guided by that exception to policy. And I don't believe I can support anything that doesn't have an exception for policy. It's just a carte blanche.
Okay, Lanny has suggested that we adopt an exception to the general policy in certain instances. Is there any support for that?
Do you have any recommended language for that?
Yeah, basically the exception to policy is the select board has the authorization to have an exception to policy should they see fit for banners or flags that come before the town of a historical or monumental impact to the community.
Anyone else have thoughts on the exception policy?
I like the idea of it. I'm not sure how could we define it so that everybody didn't ask for an exception?
Well,
I think we would need to, you know,
you could ask for an
Right.
exception, but the problem is if you had an exception would have to come before the select board and be granted. There's not too many things that would come before us that require an exception, I believe. Things that are, like I say, of a historical nature or a impact upon the whole community nature would have a definite exception to the policy of just a limited period of time.
Kim?
I mean, I think the policy can be amended at any time. That's a way to make an exception, I guess.
I just can't see amending it and then going back to what it was originally just for certain things. That's why I say that, you know, if you have an exception, exceptions to policy are standard languages in many policies that are out there in the world. Exception to policy. We have an exception to policy for purchasing policy within the town of Hartford or something. So in my opinion, an exception to policy is a very worthy idea so that we don't have to change the policy just for one or two different things. It doesn't make any sense to have that when you can have an exception to policy. That's the whole idea behind that.
I wonder whether we should hammer out the details of the policy before we start talking about exceptions. It's just my thought, you know, because that's really what we need.
Well, I was wondering, maybe Lanny, do you think that your request would be fulfilled by like a kind of a one sentence at the end of this policy that says anyone on the select board may propose a vote that a portion of this policy be accepted in any given case if the requester wishes it?
EXCE, you meant, you don't mean accepted? I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Something
Yes,
like-
EXC,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Exceptions can be made by a
Right.
majority vote of the select board.
Right. Like, you know, then in that case, the requester would have to ask for an exception and then the board would vote on it. But at least that would sort of be a part of the policy just to say that that's possible.
So what if we just had a sentence at the end that said exceptions may be made by a majority of the select board?
Brought by one
Yeah.
and then approved by a majority.
The problem I have with that is that you're placing the entirety of this exception on the select board, and there may be an entity within the town of Hartford that has a very worthwhile, worthy proposal for a banner that cannot present it to the select board. And that's why, I mean, I don't believe it should be on 7 members to control the town. Whereas you have all the members of the community, which have an opportunity to present ideas before us for exceptions to a policy that we have. I don't think it should be up to us to be able to say, we want this or we want that. I think the members of the community should have that ability to come to us and say, we have this idea that does not correlate with this policy that we would like you to take under advisement for an exception to policy.
So, I would think that if somebody had that idea and came to each of us individually and none of us said yes, it would probably not pass anyway. But all they would need to do is find one of us who would be willing to support their cause. Am I understanding this
To make
right?
a motion.
Right? If we do it this way, and then you gotta have one person. Right?
No, I
You
understand.
gotta have 4, but
I understand.
yeah, but that gets them in the door, because we need more things to do, right? We need some more people to meet with and talk with. So
Oh, yeah.
let's put something else on the list, okay?
Well,
But-
it's, I'm with Mike. I don't mind going through this policy, but I strongly think there needs to be an exception to policy in there at some point. So
Okay,
I'm not completely sold on the language of an exception to policy, but I strongly believe that there needs to be an exception to policy listed somewhere within this document. It gives the ability to waive this requirements of this policy.
Okay, so we'll come back to the exceptions. Our first, I think, open item is the duration. Originally, the proposal said 30 days at a time, up to 60 days. So you could have 2 instances of hanging them for 30 days. I would support that. As the board feels, anyone recommend a different time frame? We just have to kind of knock this out too.
Would someone be able to hang them for 60 days and put the 2 blocks together? Because I know there's been discussion about up and down and back and forth and who's going to do all that. So do we have a strong reason not to have a 60-day option?
I don't know if we have a strong reason not to. I mean, I think you could hang them for a max of 60 days and sort of specify that that could be 2 different lengths of time, essentially. Anyone have any thoughts about that? So that would make the max duration 60 days. And it's up to essentially the applicant whether they want to split the time into 2 30-day periods.
We'll just say that, yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, no.
So from discussing this with John, the personnel issue of, in terms of putting the banners up and down is not a concern from the staffing perspective. Yeah, I think I am more in support of the sort of set, you know, two 30-day spans that could happen within a calendar year, but not consecutively, just to allow for more, you know, variety in what the banners are.
So do you foresee people lining up to put banners up and down?
To be determined.
Yeah.
Kim?
I like the option that it's a maximum of 2 30-day periods and don't have a preference of whether they're consecutive or separate. I think it gives the organizations the option if that they wanted to have them consecutive or if they wanted to do them together.
Okay.
Or just do 1 30-day period.
Okay, so that would give flexibility. They could hang them for 60 or they could do 30-30. Manny?
I personally support 2 windows of 60 days each.
Okay, so we have on the table so far, we have a 30 max, 30 at a time, max of 60, 60 max, and 2 60-day periods, so 120 days total.
We're talking, we have 365 calendar days in a year. All right, we have 120 days is but a small portion of that. And I think that trying to be very careful here because I know why we're here and I know why this subject is here. But I believe if you have banners that go up there from certain groups, you will have community-wide support to have them further. And banners that have, again, I'm trying to use tact here. Banners that have, I don't want to put it, a place within the community to honor certain individuals in the community, or honor certain time periods or segments of the community should have more significant value.
So Brandon?
What I would just like to mention that I will not be supporting any banner policy with a term limit, let's call it, of longer than 2 10-day periods. I will support any banner policy with 2 10-day periods, total of 20 days or smaller time limit.
Okay. So far, I've heard 3 voices in support of a max of 60 days. However you do it, if we get a 4th, we can move on. we can decide that and go ahead. I haven't.
Who are the three?
I believe you mentioned you would be fine with the 60-day period. They can choose to do them back to back, so a max of 60, or they could split them up. I think Sue mentioned 60 days. I would support 60 days in that fashion.
I'm supportive of that.
And we have the support from Ida, so that's 4. I think we can write that down in the policy. We have a majority support for 60 days. It can be hung for 60 consecutive days, or they can be split up into 2 30-day periods. Joe, did you have a comment?
Yes, Joe Major, White River Junction. I'm just curious. We haven't had banners up for, I think since I've been here, which has been almost 6 years, and we're discussing length of time. If there's no banner that is pushing to be up behind that, I'm in a bit of flummox of why you have to immediately take it down. If there is, an influx of organizations wanting to put up banners, which there could be, then I think a time limit would be necessary. But if there's no other organization or trying to put up banners behind it, then why are we in a rush to immediately take it down? We had a citizen say that she had banners up for an inordinate amount of time. So that was one question I had. The other question was staffing and the logistics of putting up the banners. Were we saying that the town would do that as well? I'm trying to figure that out.
The existing policy provides that this third-party group, whoever it is, could ask the town to do it, put them up, take them down for a fee, or they could do it themselves, as long as they did an agreement with the town, releasing the town from liability.
I just caution that. Releasing the town from liability is one thing. And as the lawyers, both on the dais and at the, know that can be problematic at times. If there is something, say the sidewalk is a bit unlevel and they go up and someone hurts themselves, even though they have released them from liability, there may be some liability with that. I would suggest that it be town specific in putting up and taking down any banners. I feel uncomfortable with any organization putting up banners or anything. I know that we have flags that are put up, but I just have an issue with any organization coming in and putting up banners that really the town should be doing.
And in response, I'll tell you that
Please.
VLCT agrees with you. That's their preference. But we
Oh,
had heard.
And Joe is on the board. Isn't that amazing?
And we had heard also, however, from a group that thought they could save money by not paying a fee to the town to do that for them.
Penny wise and pound foolish.
Dennis, do you have a comment, question?
I do. Dennis Brown of White River Junction, Hartford. Thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm a little bewildered on this sudden time limit on something that we haven't even had before. And the exception idea, it sounds good, but if I was sitting where you are, if you're going to have a policy but then have exceptions, I think it could go all over the place. So I don't know as I get that. It might be good, might be bad, but I just don't get it. As you know, the hometown thing has proposed 12 banners, and there was a concern mentioned a moment ago about variety, allowing for variety. There's just in the South Main Street block before you get past CNS Pizza, I counted 25 poles, and they go all the way down South Main to near Nut Lane. So shouldn't be any problem with variety if this was to be approved. The last time we all met, there was some legal questions mentioned about how, the town might get sued over this. You better be careful. Well, yes, that's always a possibility. So I used to be in the mower business decades ago, and mowers used to say, keep feet away on the sticker on the deck. And then somebody, the story went from New Jersey, it was a doctor, I think, that, I don't know if this is true or not, this is what we were told, decided to mow his hedges with his lawnmower. So he reached down and grabbed it like this, lost his fingers. So now mowers say keeps hands and feet away. So somebody's always thinking. And, should we stop making cars tomorrow because Chevy and Ford might get sued? Let's be real. I mean, that possibility is always there. You always want to limit the possibilities, but I don't think this is a serious matter in that regard. I just in the last week traveled down to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and throughout Pennsylvania and some New Jersey and New York, and saw several banners. And I got to tell you, there's some that I didn't care a lot for. There were some that were dominating the town. There were banners on every pole. I've never proposed that for the committee, from the committee, that we'd alternate them with, welcome to Hartford or some other thing in between. And then some are on fast highways and up high, so you can't really see them or study them. So I like seeing them, but it was just a flash. I didn't really get to look at them. So that's why I was trying to be logic here, and where the most pedestrians and the slowest traffic in town probably is going, why this was proposed for downtown, plus the brackets as we've discussed already there. I've been contacted by some business owners in town that may be interested in putting these up. So I don't know what that would entail. I haven't investigated if that's needs zoning or some other review project, design review or anything, but there is interest there. So I just throw that out there. I'm gonna study it more. And I had mentioned that most towns, I think, with this banner project that we were proposing, do it for 6 months, the summer months, Memorial Day to Veterans Day. And I was surprised at the resistance to that. And now we've got 30 and 30 and 30 and 60 and possibly 20 days, 10 days each or something. So I hope you give it some thought before you pass this, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Sue?
Dennis, I want to be very clear that I would be happy to have them up 360 days a year. But what I am doing tonight is trying to get a policy in place so we can get something done.
Let's do
I
it.
don't want you to think I've been lying to you, okay?
Oh, I never.
All right.
So we had a majority in support of 60 days that could be hung consecutively or in 30-day blocks. Since we have a majority for that.
You have 3 people. 4? You have 4 people.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. We have a majority for that. So our next question is, how many banners or how many poles can be used at a time? Kim helpfully walked around White River downtown this afternoon and counted 42 poles.
But can I clarify?
Yes.
There were 42 poles with existing brackets on them right now. There were several more poles, and including actually the ones on Railroad Row do not currently have brackets, nor do the ones that go like up by the Bugby Center. They do not currently have brackets. So I just did an informal count, like from River Roost to Gate Street, and from Gate Street to Joey Drive, and then on Gate Street itself, etc. So I have sort of an informal count of those that have them. I mean, honestly, I would be in support, and I won't talk about making personal contributions, but would support adding some brackets to those areas that don't have them in whatever way is most appropriate. So what's interesting?
45 brackets in White River?
Just in the village of White River.
Okay, has
Junction.
anyone counted the other 4 villages?
No. not that I know of, and these are because there's 42 that, and again, that could be off by one or two, like as I was counting them, I went through twice, but I think those are specifically when the phase 2 construction of South Main Street was happening, those new light poles that were replaced. Scott Hausler might have some information on that, but there's the newer poles that have the newer brackets. All of the old ones that had the 250th anniversary ones are mostly broken off by now.
The TIF project stuff.
Yes, exactly. And those also have, like they have electrical outlets in them and stuff. So we have a combination of some older light poles and some newer ones. So
I think with the number of poles, it's kind of a question that would relate to having banners. I don't know, 20, 25, I mean, kind of just throwing numbers out there. Lanny?
I have a question, reverting back here. Are we gonna say, I mean, if the majority board says 60 days, are we gonna say when that period can start, when period can end? As far as when the 60-day period is, are we gonna allow individuals that wish to hang the poles, the banners, those?
I think they'll
I
do it
don't
on
think
the application.
Yeah.
They would say we want to start hanging them on this day, and we're gonna hang them for 30, then we're gonna hang them for another 30, like a month.
So are we
or two
gonna
later.
limit, are we gonna be able to, are we going to control that though? Or are we going to allow the group to hang them the time periods they wish? I mean, I don't think that discussion of hanging the banners is, the time period is completely wrapped up yet, because I don't know who's in control of that, when that 60-day block is. Whether it's the individuals that are presenting the banners or whether it's the select board saying.
Well,
"We want the banners."
they would fill out an application which would talk about the date they want to have them up and for how long, and we'll let them decide if they want to do it. They can come to us with an application, they say we want to do it for 60 straight days, or we want to do it for 30 and 30,
But if-
and then I think we say yes or no to
The difficulty I see though is if we have conflicting groups that come before us. I mean, I know we have a number of polls downtown, but if we have conflicting groups that come before us that want 25 polls, each on the same period.
Have to wait.
Well, that's the point, is that who's making the decision of precedence, of who has the higher
I vote
precedence.
for John.
First
Everyone
first
can be
come,
mad.
I
first
feel
served.
like
Yeah.
it's first application in, right? We
Yeah.
decide,
right.
There's
take
one
them in
approved,
order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the application comes in with the requested dates. The select board still has to approve the application one way or another. It will have a start date and an end date, and will, you know, if the organization is gonna display them themselves, then they have to do the permit. If they would like staff to do it, then they will have to provide the equipment, the banners, and contact information and stuff by a few days prior to the installation date. I guess I'm not sure.
I guess my concern is that, do we know that town staff are gonna be available all the time to put banners up at the whim of groups that are coming before the board for banners?
We have heard already many times that we haven't had an awful lot of these
Right.
groups coming forward.
I
And
understand that.
if, and when we get an application, given this relatively low volume, I'm sure that we can find the people to help with the installation and the taking down. It doesn't sound like a big time commitment, given the very low numbers of people that have come forward asking for this. We might get deluged, at which time we'll figure out another way of approaching it, but I think current staff would be able to find the time to do this.
I'm still proposed maximum of 12 for any organization, and that allows for just a more diverse group of banners if and when the applications come forward.
So you would say 12 polls at a time. And I don't, if someone has 20 banners, I don't know what to say, I guess, sure, go ahead, but that's a number, I mean.
We had
Two.
talked about a limit per village, I thought at some point.
Yeah, I think there's an overall number of banners, and then there would be, we could specify a limit per village, but
That's how it's drafted currently. It's like a maximum of blank light poles per specified village.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, that gets a little weird with downtown, because, I wouldn't advise saying like, you could do 15 polls, a max of 3 in each village or something.
No,
That just
12 in
doesn't
each
work.
village.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, that's
So
what I
it's
was
gonna
trying to
be the-
understand. Okay.
Right, okay, so we need a max number of poles that can be used and a max per village. You threw out 12. Does anyone feel strongly one way or another? I mean.
So that's
Lynn,
48 per application? That's what you're
Up
saying?
to, or whatever.
That's what I'm
60.
asking. I want to understand.
I think each village application would be a separate application.
Really?
I mean,
No, I don't see that. No, that's foolish.
But why?
That's just foolish.
So, wait, so you're saying that you
and
foresee.
I'm not fully thought this through, so I'm hearing
Okay.
you out.
So 12 go into White River and then they get picked up and taken to. No, okay. So
No,
why would it not be on the same application?
same, the application specifies which village the banners go in. So if a group
Village.
it says, I would like to put 12 banners in White River Junction, that's the application. And then they say, I want to put 12 more application, or 12 more banners in the village of Wilder. That's a separate application. We don't have the light poles identified in any of the other villages yet.
Why would you not just have one application and then they could list the villages they want? I'm not seeing a reason not to, so I'm asking.
You
what
could
you were
probably
thinking.
just have another line or two in the single
Right.
application to break
Yeah.
it out that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I don't know if we have 12 poles in West Hartford,
Yeah.
but I'll
No,
count
no,
next time I'm
we-
down
we
there.
probably don't want to restrict it. Laney?
Yeah, we have a town that's made up of 5 villages. We have to look at this with town concept. We don't need applications for every village that comes, that
Mhm.
people want to hang things. That's just getting into monotony things that we don't need to have. We are a town. We need to focus this from a town aspect. All right, if people have 50 banners and they want to spread them out within the town of Hartford, we can limit it if we wish to like different areas of the town, but if a group has 50 banners and they want to put them up within the town, I don't know why we're limiting them to 12 banners. That's just per 12 banners per village. To me, it's, I don't understand that. If somebody has 100 banners that they can get support for, and they want to put them in our towns, in our town throughout the different villages, let them have at it. We get the community support for that.
Brandon?
Just a little bit off topic here. I just want to put out there that maybe we should add a little something to the application that says none of this shall be construed to require the town of Hartford to add brackets that are not currently existing.
So I guess we'll hear from Joe in a second, but I think the question to think about is how many, like, if someone came and said, I have 100 banners, would we be okay with letting someone put up 100 banners? Or do we want to limit that to like 25 or 30 or some other number? That's really, I think, the question here. I don't have any big preference on it. Kim, and then Sue, and then Laney.
Then my preference would be, I agree with Lanny saying it's about the town as a whole. So my preference would be a maximum of 12 banners for up to 2 30-day periods within the town.
12 to what?
What?
Sue, and then Lynn?
I would say 12 per village if they wanted to put them up in, because that's not going to be a big presence.
So that would be 60.
60, up to 60, but only 12 per village. So if you didn't want to go to every village, you didn't have to go to every village.
Laney?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous to have such a small minuscule number as 12. You're talking,
12 per village.
I understand that, 12,
That's not
no,
what Kim was saying.
Kim was saying 12 for the town. You're talking 2 here, 2 there, that doesn't get the message across to what is supposed to be proposed by these things. I think the villages, when everybody's looking at this, everybody is so focused on downtown area, okay? White River Junction is a large village that does not just encompass the downtown area, and we're losing sight of that, okay? Yes, we are. You
Okay.
can put banners throughout the entire village of White River Junction and intersperse them so they're quite a ways apart from one another. They don't have to all be clustered within the downtown area. So if you had 20 banners in the village of White River Junction, they would be dispersed and you wouldn't have that tight grouping. I cannot support 12 banners.
Do you have a number you would?
I would support 25 banners
Per village?
per village, sure.
Joe, would you like to comment?
I'm not sure. Kim, I'm just curious, how did you come up with 12?
The policies from other towns that I used as a basis for the draft that I made all had 10, but because the Hometown Heroes group had requested 12, I bumped it up to 12.
I see. Okay, I was just curious where that number came from. I am a bit hesitant about the 12 and not because, and I understand your logic and it makes perfect sense. It's just, we just haven't had a whole bunch of people come up and say, we want to put up banners in in a half a decade. Now, yes, I think you have to a certain extent, have some limitation to it. I don't know. I think 12 is maybe a little low. And I think 25 may be a little high. So I have that differing of opinion. But above and beyond, let's find out, let's vote on stuff, get it, and we'll work within the framework.
18.
I do appreciate you mentioning that, is that with any kind of policy, we're going to have to go through sort of the practice of actually having people apply and having banners up. And it may be at some point where we hear from people that that's way too many banners. That's not enough banners. They're way too long, right? Things can always be amended with a banner policy. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. I do think getting the policy finalized so that applications can be in is important. I think we're close because we've got the 60 days. And now if we just decide the number of polls, and we're kind of guessing here, right? I mean, I don't know that anyone's ever going to come up and say, I want to put up 12 banners in each village and have 60 banners to put up, right? That seems a little unlikely, but you never know. But I think if we can find a number and finalize this policy, then we can start the process of, seeing how this plays out in reality. Okay.
Just for the record, I'd like to reiterate something that I've said before, that I do know of at least 4 nonprofit organizations in the town of Hartford that are basically waiting for a policy to be established before submitting applications. There were groups that were getting started, and then when this proposal came before the board, they decided to step back until the process was decided upon. So just keep that in mind, please, that there are other organizations interested in doing that.
Dennis?
Hold on a second, because that was addressed directly to me. So, and I absolutely understand that. And I'm not saying that wasn't, but all of it did not come about until the Hometown Heroes project was put forward. None of this. No, that is not true. None of this came about. Not the policies and none of this came about until this project was asked to come forward. So it's a bit disingenuous to say that they had all these nonprofits. Now they do, because we put forward this. But that I am sorry. This when I was on the board, never came up. Never came up. So to all of a sudden say, because this has been publicized and now, yes, people want, and I'm all for that. I'm all for other organizations coming to and wanting to put up banners. I think that's great for the town. I agree. We want that. And I agree that there should be a policy. But to say that this did not come about prior to the Hometown Heroes project is absolutely disingenuous, because this came about last year.
Point of order, please. Could you please just quiet your tone a little? I feel like you're being a little aggressive.
You're absolutely right, and I apologize. I absolutely apologize, and that. But the publicity of this is why other organizations have come forward. And I think that is a great thing. It's a great thing for Hartford. It gets more organizations involved in the community and putting things up. I'm all for that. So that is what I'm a little taken aback by, is that that all of a sudden you know, it was because because the Hometown Heroes project was put forward that, you know, other organizations wanted to come at the same time, and that just wasn't the case. It wasn't the case.
So,
I just want one response to that.
okay, one response.
One
and then we're
response,
gonna
because
move on.
Joe, we can sit down together. I'll show you the email receipts about the exchanges between Nancy LaRoe from Vital Communities and Lori Hirschfield in the planning department to try to look at the options of how the group could go about getting art banners before the Hometown Heroes group was brought before this board. So just please stop insisting that you know about everything that's gone before it. And then the group stepped back because the Hometown Heroes brought forth and we said, well, we need a framework, we need a process. So that's where it stopped. So please don't mischaracterize the situation. I apologize for being upset and I will try to be a little less emotional.
Okay, I was just thinking maybe for the purposes of throwing something out we could talk about and moving on is, I think the number 12 is kind of weird. I would suggest 15 per village, with the reality that West Hartford doesn't have 15 light poles.
We'll all come out and take
And-
turns. holding.
Yeah, and the fact that anyone actually wanting to hang 75 banners at a time seems entirely unlikely, but I do think you need a fairly high number, like 15 for each village, because we're kind of saying this is the max in each village. We need to account for the fact that like downtown has so many light poles, right? So I would say, let's make it 15 per village, max is 75. Lanny and then
Yeah,
Dennis. and
what
then
about
we'll
a-
see.
What about a fair compromise between 15 and 25, what I stated, and go to 18? Okay, that's a fair compromise because it's halfway. I think it's very fair compromise of 18 banners per community area.
I think it's worth mentioning that the village distinctions, there's no actual borders, they're conceptual, so that was another reason why I thought just having a number specific to the town of Hartford and people could apply to put them wherever they want.
Sure.
You know, there is no, Jericho is not, I think, part of a specific village, or there's not like a borderline between
That's true.
Wilder and White River
So
Junction.
18 is 90 banners, right?
Yeah.
Dennis?
Thank you again. Go back in time just a little bit. Comment was earlier about when these banners might go up. Let's be clear. I'm not doing this in January. Something that I haven't looked at whatever this new policy is. I was thinking that I'd be notified when this meeting was going to be. I happened to see it on the agenda, so I'm here, but I didn't look at in this new policy. But what I thought you might focus on, I thought the biggest concern is to have something in there about putting up offensive banners, with things that we don't want to see in town. And so I hope you've worked on that. I don't know what the new thing says.
There's no change on Dennis from prior versions.
Okay, so if somebody wants to put up something really offensive, it would go before the application process and hopefully get turned down. Okay,
Yes, that's the idea. I will note that Vermont League of Cities and Towns is working on a model policy, and they will likely have language about refusing certain banners, which is a constitutional hot topic. And so when that comes out, we would likely amend this to reflect the language that they have when it comes to refusing to hang certain banners. So that's something that's out there, and we're aware of that.
yeah, and at last time we met there, the court case in Boston, I think it was.
Right.
I thought that revolved around that the town didn't have a policy and was regulating things, and then they got in trouble. So
That was
having the
part of-
policy.
That was part of the case, is that Boston did not have a policy. They just let anyone fly whatever they wanted and never really bothered to, they never rejected anyone. And when they finally did, that was a
Right.
problem. So
So
having
this
some policy.
this would eliminate that problem, I think.
I think it's an open question. Anything else, Dennis?
Oh, just was mentioned about the village lines where they are. I've been here all my life and I can't tell you where Wilder starts and where White River starts and so on. So I know of no such distinction. So I like the increased number and maybe in the future, maybe more banners could be up in other villages, but that's a wait and see. Thank you.
Dennis. Laney, do you have a comment?
Okay, can we get back to a number? And
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think that 18 banners, you know, I had proposed 25, which I would love to see 25. Understanding, when I say 18 banners, understanding that the Hometown Heroes group does not have 18 banners that they're gonna put up. They have nowhere near that number. All right, so take that out of your mind, although I know that's difficult for people to do because this has already been prejudged by that. Remove that and focus on the fact of 18 banners per village.
I would support 18 banners per village for a total of 90. If we can get 4 votes in favor, then I think we've worked out the details of the policy and we can vote to adopt it. As a whole. Did anyone else have thoughts on 18?
Can I just add to my, there are other very worthy organizations out there that you may really support, that you want to have plastered throughout the community. And for you to limit it to 12, you're cutting your own throats. All right. And 18 is a good number, that understanding that Hometown Heroes doesn't have that many right now. Okay. So I think it's a very fair compromise between 12 and 25 of what I would love to see up there. Yeah, I'd love to see them from every light pole that we have, but I'm willing to make a huge sacrifice and go with 18.
So we do have 18 as a proposal. Do we have 4 votes in favor of 18? Laney, Sue, Ida, I would support that. So that would be the number. So the policy as such would be banners can hang for 60 days consecutively or in 2 30-day periods. That there would be a maximum of 18 banners per village for a total of 90 banners.
Insofar we have general understanding of what the village boundaries are.
Right. So those are the open details.
Could we specify, like, right now it says a maximum of blank light poles may be used for display of banners per application, it says per application, within each specified village. Could we add center, so it would say within each specified village center? Would that delineate it a little more?
That's not defined either.
That's true.
No, there's
What's the center?
and that's the problem I come back to, though, is that White River Junction is a large village that you don't think of, because when you think of White River Junction, you think of the block. That's all people think about when they think of White River Junction. That's what, no.
It's not.
It is. When you look at White River Junction, you think of that. Don't be argumentative here, okay? What I'm trying to say is that it's a large area that we can put banners up throughout. There's no reason to think that they have to be clustered.
Okay, we'll hear from Kim and then go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, okay, forget, I was just trying to add more specificity to the village part, like the, if you like it as is, fine, we can't actually define that, but I can live with it if you can.
Ida?
I just was gonna say, I can live with it and putting this in the category of something that can be amended if it proves to be challenging in the future.
Sue?
So I think it does make sense to group them in the center, but then what if Jim wanted to hang one off of our back dirt road?
It's private property.
Yeah, right. So I'm saying, you know, there are other ways to have them spread out around town. But I think for the official ones, and I don't want us to forget that. Okay, so in the center, I'm really enjoying this conversation, because one of the first things Jim told me when I moved there is, I said, which village are we in? And he said, well, if you pee off the porch this way, you're peeing into West Hartford. If you do it this side, it's Queechee. So he always peed it toward Queechee because that's what he thinks is so.
Okay, we'll hear from Joe and then Dennis, but we have the main details ironed out. So what we can do is after that, we can talk about whether we want an exceptions sentence. And then after that, we can take a motion and vote on whether it's finalized.
I have a couple little very specific things that I think will be easy.
Okay, Joe?
And I want this to go on the record, and Lana, I hope you're listening. Kim, I apologize. You did not deserve that. When we worked together on the board, you were always prepared, and we didn't always disagree or agree, and sometimes we disagreed. But you didn't deserve that vitriol, and I apologize. And I just wanted that to go on the record. And I appreciate your service to this community exponentially. So I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Joe. Dennis?
Thank you again. The village center question. Well, I just, all right, so if this evolved, now we're talking about possibly 18 per village, possibly village center. As
We didn't do
town
center.
manager mentioned, what defines that? The committee had actually talked about, wouldn't it have been nice to put some of these up by the VA along Route 5? There's no light poles there though. There's no light poles along with their big new fence they put up, millions of dollars worth of fence. But there's probably poles on the other side of the road by Super 8, but not there. So, yes, we've talked about downtown a lot, but if we had more, could we have put them up by sites at Mountain Avenue? I mean, that's kind of the new White River Junction, if you will. And so I just thought I'd throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Okay, so I think we're close because we hammered out those two open items. Kim?
Can I just, the couple of little super minor ones, which are, do we agree that light pole is 1 or 2 words?
Does that really matter, Kim?
Well.
It
Well,
does if
people
we're gonna
don't
make a
use
problem.
it.
We might as well just get it right.
I'm gonna call it 1 word.
Really?
I had 2
I
words
don't
and I
really-
thought you complained that it should be 1 word.
I didn't complain. I'm basically just trying, I want
Can
consistency.
we leave it to John's discretion?
Yes.
and make it
I'll try to keep
consistent?
internally
Thank you.
consistent.
Something consistent, yeah.
Okay, something consistent.
Thank
Got it.
you.
It's either 1
And-
word or 2 words.
I agree.
Okay, what's that?
And
next,
then
Kim?
other is just to change the completed applications can be emailed to townmanager@hartford-bt.org. Did that get set up?
Yes, I was going to announce that at next meeting. We
All right.
have more intuitive email aliases available for some of our
Great.
staff.
That's actually super great, John.
So that, see,
Can I
other
have
minor-
can I have a point of order on light pole?
Yep.
When I put it into Google as 1 word, it splits it in it, so.
Yeah, I
Okay,
kind of prefer 2 words. I don't know why. I mean, it might be because the other, the language I started with the draft was maybe 2, but
Well,
in
it
any
sounds
case.
like,
We're wasting time on having to
John
split up the
will,
word like.
John
I'm
will
going to
do
get
that.
right on that. It's 2 words and I never had a policy that would even suggest 1 word.
Okay.
Let's forget that.
Now we can have a policy on how to split up words. I mean,
Kim?
God.
And I guess
almighty.
I think. I do apologize for being so emotional about this. It does feel like I guess I'm feeling a little defensive in some cases. I think we're making a little bit of progress. Hopefully this is the right direction. I do think things are going to come before us that are going to challenge this and we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
And one consideration I think is worth mentioning is that if something does come before this or any future sitting select board that is not considered, being offensive is is a subjective term. Like it's, these 7 members can vote whether or not they want those banners and that can be challenged, etc. I mean, I would caution this or any future boards that if there's a consideration to deny a policy, that the consideration to refuse the opportunity for any group to, like, if you're saying yes to some and no to others, I do think it's subject to real issues. So if there's some application that comes before the board and the board wants to say no, then they'll have to cross that bridge when they come to it. But anyway, I
Thank you,
would say
Kim.
it's yes or none.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The last thing was the exceptions that Lanny mentioned. I don't know if people would be okay with the sentence at the end, sort of the policy statement or somewhere in there, that exceptions to the policy may be made by a majority vote of the board.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I think the next question is,
Wait a minute, we have anybody else buying into that?
anyone
I'm okay
else
with it.
have an issue with that? No, it seems like we've got a majority, so I think the next step would
Okay,
be,
there's just one question. Is it clear how somebody would bring that question to the board?
so I think
By
with a
majority.
majority vote, you would need a motion in a second.
No, but I'm saying, can citizens bring that in, or?
Kim, I think they could,
Citizens could bring it in, but still, a board member would need to make
Okay.
a motion and have it seconded for it to be entertained as a vote.
I could see us getting an application and the group may say, we think this is so important that this should be up for 90 days, right? And
Right,
then someone on the board could say, I move that we approve this application with a duration of 90 days. They get a second, good vote.
Okay.
Right, so I think that could work. So I think the next step is just to, I'll take a motion to adopt the light pole banner policy as amended. Lady,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt the banner light pole policy as amended.
do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second from Sue, discussion. Want to discuss this anymore or to give their thoughts on it, Brandon?
Well, I had mentioned about putting some kind of clause in there about this doesn't construe none of this should be construed to require the town to add brackets. And I,
There's one right here.
is there?
The applicant
Mhm.
the applicant organization shall be responsible for using existing brackets, rods, and other hardware and or provide their own such materials for installation.
I withdraw my comment.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All right, well, I will. All those, do you have something?
I was just gonna say, we might want to call the vote,
By
one by
roll?
one, but yeah.
Okay, call the vote by roll. All right, Lenny,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Mary,
No. nay.
Brandon,
Nay.
Kim.
I
I will vote aye, so that is 5-2. Okay, we've adopted the banner policy. Excellent work, everyone. Took a while, but it was good discussion. A good compromise. All right,
Could I just say,
Yeah,
it was
go
like
ahead, Sue.
1/8 as long as I thought it was gonna take, so thank you, everybody, really.
thank you, everybody. Dennis?
When you get that typed up in a new formal thing, can I get a copy, please?
Absolutely. Certainly. Okay, our next, yeah, absolutely. Our next item is to discuss and adopt the select board rules of procedure. These are the rules of procedure that Dominic Cloud provided to us. They've been in our agendas for a little while, so I think people have had time to look at them. I certainly support them. I don't know if anyone else has any comments on these or specific suggestions. One thing I noticed in Dominic's procedure, a public comment is reduced from 5 minutes to 2 per speaker. I know at one point we talked about 3 because we'd seen that other places, but I don't really have a preference either way. I'm just pointing it out for the board. Any?
I do like that 3-minute limit versus a 2-minute limit.
Does anyone else have thoughts on that? That's something we can probably, Mary?
Just the fact that I think my understanding is that when Dominic proposed 2 minutes, I think it also, an individual could ask the chairman for extended time. So
Is that in here?
I think that's been a kind of,
I do see that, yeah, number 5
I
under
thought I
public,
read it, yeah.
public participation.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Comments shall be limited to 2 minutes per speaker unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer.
Anyone have thoughts? Brandon?
I would support 3 minutes rather than 2.
Is that something that's everyone okay with 3?
Mhm.
All right.
May I just make
John,
one point that when you announce it at the beginning of each meeting, that you would let the people know that they have up to 3 minutes.
Certainly. Yes, of course. All right, so that'll be changed to 3 minutes.
Was there not was there not a total time cap, or did we not go there? Like, I remember him.
I think there's a 10-minute time cap, but
For public comment in general.
in general, but I imagine.
Should we extend that to like 15 since we're going to 3 minutes? I mean, I don't care. I mean, basically, it's just like, obviously, 2 minutes divided by 10 minutes divided by 2 minutes each is equitable.
What I've found in the past, we put sort of a time limit in the agenda. If a lot of people show up and they want to speak, we listen to all of them. I don't think we've ever cut off public comment before everyone had a chance to comment. The 10 minutes.
Does it say it in here though, the 10
It
minutes?
does.
It does,
Public
yes.
participation
Number
number two.
Okay.
Could always excise that sentence if you wanted.
I'm Mary.
I think the purpose that we had Dominic down here for was to try to make the most efficient and effective. And I think, and when we start waffling, I'm just afraid we're gonna end up back where we started from. So
Sure.
that's all I have to say.
Tim?
Good evening, Tim Ferriel. And honestly, this is the topic I came down here for tonight, although the banner thing we could go on about, but I congratulate you for working through that because I know there's been a lot of emotion in the community around that topic. But around citizen comments, I read through all of the materials you guys have in front of you tonight from Dominic, who I think is one of the most brilliant men in the state of Vermont in terms of public policy and setting up programs that work for government to work. The other side of me is always saying that democracy is not efficient. And I have always been troubled as a citizen. I've been troubled as a school board member. I've been troubled as a school board chair around how we handle citizens in this community. And I don't think we do a good job. I think it comes across as many times condescending, short-sighted, and not visionary in terms of really truly engaging our citizens to be part of our government. And I think the challenge is in the structure. It's evening. Most people in this community are home tonight, raising their kids, making dinner, working, they're tired. They don't have a chance to come down here and talk and engage with you guys and hopefully lead to better government. So I'm of the opinion that the 2 minute, 3 minute, whatever thing is kind of a bogus discussion, because at the end of the day, we need deeper, better discussions around community issues, and you need to restructure how you have meetings so that people can truly engage in what's going on in Hartford. For me to come down here tonight or any night and you give me my 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, to discuss a topic that matters to me and matters arguably to the town, doesn't work. It doesn't work for you, right? Because many people come up here and say the same thing every night and you're ready to pull your hair out because you guys are here 4 hours and you don't want to be here. I get it. But I just think we're missing the ball on this. I think we're somehow missing the idea of like, how do we really engage citizens to provide comments that matter, to run this place better, and yet not have this like token thing where I come in and say, hey, I'm pissed off about the banner thing, and this is how I feel in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever. We have to come up with something different, don't we? Because I can come down here and and the other thing that happens, like in the school board, and the school board's worse than you, by the way, and they hopefully they'll hear me and they'll watch this. It's condescending. It's repulsive. They have an agenda item and you have to wait until the agenda item is presented. So you're sitting there as a working person till 8 o'clock at night when they get to the item so that you can make a comment that matters to you. Really? I think we can do better, right? We can do better. We can truly listen to citizens in a way, maybe it's a library meeting about one topic or something, but the 2 minute, 3 minute thing where I get to come up as a citizen that pays taxes and cares about this town, it just doesn't work as a model. So I think we can come up with something better. Thank you.
Yeah, Tim, what might be a proposal that you have for that?
The
What do you
proposal that I've
think- What do you
shared,
think would be good?
I think you should change your meeting formats. I think you should pick topics that there's a lot of citizen desire for engagement and change your meeting formats. Have a meeting at Quechee Library, have a meeting somewhere else, have a meeting at a different time, and really try and reach out to citizens and ask for their true, genuine input. Because I know you have your meeting every Tuesday or whatever, but I think you could change the format and I think you could get better input and involvement by citizens for topics that matter to all of us.
So are you suggesting, aside from just regular select board meetings, to have select board listening sessions?
Yeah, I think you could change it. I think you could have less evening select board meetings and you could have more meet and greet Saturdays, or let's have a potluck supper and talk about something that matters
So
to
if
the
we
town.
had, if we had one meeting, not even a meeting a month, if we had one gathering a month where we had select board listening session to gather input from the community, would that serve that role you're looking
I think,
for?
I think it has potential. You could do 12 times a year. You could do 6 times a year where you just pick a topic that you know is a hot topic that's important to the community and say, let's do a deeper dive. Let's have a mediator. Let's have somebody come in and facilitate the meeting and do like a much more dynamic process that people get to talk about it in a way that works, or breakout sessions or whatever. So that's all. I understand you're all good people. You're all genuine. You all want to be here and do the work. But I'm just sort of saying, like, for me, having sat there and here, it just, for me, has never really worked as a model to suggest that somebody could come in here in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes and really be effective for what you decide or what they want to express.
Thank you, Tim. Kim?
Tim, I just want to mention that the calendar cycle that the board adopted does incorporate 4 listening sessions, that there was discussion that those could take place in the libraries.
I know, and that's awesome. And I appreciate your work on that.
And with the work that John and Connie Kelly and I did with the welcoming and engaging cohort, one of our topics that we worked on was lack of trust in local government. And we had discussed that that could be a topic of an upcoming listening session. So it's definitely like on the radar that those are the kind of things that could be useful.
Awesome. So the 2 minute, 3 minute thing, don't fret over that, because there's other channels hopefully for that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. If there's, anyone else has more comments on the rules of procedure, you can make them. Otherwise, we can take a motion.
I'd like to just point out a few of the provisions of the draft, if I could.
Sure.
That would be helpful, perhaps if the board wanted to consider them more closely. Under agendas, number 1, it says the chair, with the assistance of the town manager, will create and manage the agenda. Those who wish to add an item need to contact the town manager to request its inclusion by noon on Wednesday before the meeting, and the chair makes the final decision regarding inclusion on the agenda. I just wanted to highlight it in case anybody wanted to discuss that further. Doesn't look like it.
Anyone want to discuss it? Okay.
Do you have others?
Yes. Obviously, under meetings, we can fill in the dates of the meeting, which have been left blank for now.
Yep.
And also, in terms of number 2, the posting locations, those will include the town libraries, the Bugby Senior Center, and the Queechee Club, which is standard practice currently.
Wait a minute. Say that again. Repeat those again.
Yes, I'm sorry. Under meetings, number 2, there is a listing at the end as to where select board special meeting notices should be posted. And currently, it doesn't list any of those places. So I was just going to suggest that we include language referring to the town libraries, the Bugby Senior Center, and the Queechee Club as locations to post special meeting notices, along with the clerk's office, which is our current standard practice. That's all.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Well,
On motions and voting, number 9, we might want to tweak that just a bit to reflect the new language about what is a select board majority that is included in the successful charter revision. So maybe just some wordsmithing on that. Number 12, I'll note that we haven't currently had our presiding officer announce the result of all votes. So either we can dispense with that or emphasize that we need to do that going forward.
Sure. I mean, that's fine.
is that like just when you usually say?
I usually say like 4 to 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize that you were doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're doing it,
It's very
great.
subtle.
I must be napping during the meetings. I'm sorry. Okay.
And so you can wordsmith the
Sure, sure.
number 9 on the motions.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Kim, if you're done, John.
I think so, but I might have a couple others.
Kim, did you have a comment?
In the organization, number 1, should we add clerk to that list? The body must annually elect a chair and a vice chair.
Where are you at?
Organization number 1, first page.
Are these on dogs?
Oh, am I looking at the wrong one? Hold on. I've got a printed out one, so maybe I'm looking at.
It says Dom's procedure on the first page.
Yeah, organization, first page, organization, number 1, the body must annually elect a chair and a vice chair who will serve until the body's next annual meeting unless otherwise removed. Vacancies in the offices of chair or vice chair will be filled by majority vote of the body. I was just wondering if we wanted to add clerk in there.
You should have.
If you wanted to add what?
Clerk.
Oh,
We probably should. I mean, we do vote the clerk. It's
you got one of them.
organization.
Change the wording to chair, vice chair, and clerk.
And then is it possible, I mean, do we want to include a reference? Well, I guess we don't need to, like the assignment of liaisons. I was wondering if you wanted to include a reference to the assignment of committee liaisons and just reference the policy.
I think that might be in the code of conduct. Yeah, there's actually a reference on the second page of the code of conduct that says liaison assignments, see select board committee liaison policy.
Okay, great. That's fine then.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And also, I think number 2 would also include clerk. The chair of the body, or in the chair's absence, the vice chair will preside over all meetings. If both the chair and the vice chair are absent, a member selected by the body will act as presiding officer. I think we could just say the clerk will, or does it matter?
I don't think it matters, does it?
It matters.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
the
fine.
clerk may be like, no, please God. I
Yeah,
don't want it to.
okay, then skip that. These rules may be, okay, number 7, also under organization. These rules may be amended by majority vote of the body and must be readopted annually. I think we could add approve and or update this policy. Like basically, the rules may be amended by majority vote of the body and must be readopted annually.
Do you want to box yourself in on annually?
Yeah.
Because it's been 5 years since we
Right.
Yeah.
changed them last, right?
One of the problems though is that when new board members come on, they fail to understand the rules of procedure.
Right, which is why
And
we should adopt them.
They
annually.
Or you
should
could
be at
say
least,
reviewed annually.
they should at least be reviewed annually. That's, I don't know about readopting, but I do believe that reviewing so that everybody's on the same page, because we're not following the procedures that we have currently. So
Okay, so forget my notes on that then.
How do you want to deal with number 7?
Huh?
How do you want to deal with
Well, I
number
mean,
7?
readopting doesn't sound that hard. 'Cause
No.
You can do the organizational meeting.
It's
you
taken us
vote-
3 months to do it.
You vote a chair, a vice chair, a clerk, and then you have a motion to adopt the rules of procedure. And you vote yes or no.
I would say must be reviewed at organizational meeting. That's because all members should be present at the organizational meeting. So yes, that will make our organizational meeting a little longer, but that will be a time for us to adopt, to go over the rules of procedure for new members coming on board. That's the time to do it, instead of, it's easier to keep the horse in the gate rather than to get him back in.
Everyone okay if we readopt these, and review them at the organizational meeting?
Just a question.
Adam?
So are you picturing that we would like read through them one by one all together at that meeting?
Yes.
I think that'd be great.
Go ahead.
I'm okay with it.
All right, we got a majority for that.
You know, it's,
Any question, any other things, Kim? On your end?
Not at this moment.
Okay. Brandon, do you have
Oh,
some?
I think
John?
I'm reminding Kim, did you want to have something in these rules of procedure describing commission reports? And whether those are to be included in select board minutes, for example, or since that's somewhat redundant with the committee report minutes themselves, maybe it's not necessary.
Is there anything in here about that right now?
No, but I know you had asked about whether this could be discussed at this moment.
I mean, I don't know where it would go in this particular document, maybe agendas, I guess, right? So under agendas. I mean, do you guys want to streamline commission reports or do you want to keep it as is? I have no preference. Except for the other expectation, which I think is useful, is that we do, any board member shares their commission reports with whoever is doing the minutes so that they have them in writing. If there's no opinion on it.
I don't see any need to change how we do it, really. I mean, you just kind of, if people go to the meetings or liaisons for and assign a report, they can just report it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I feel like it is the purpose to share with the board. Like I do kind of like it, even though it's always at the end of our long meetings, that it can be a little rushed, but I mean, it's kind of the point, right? To just let the board know what the committees are working on.
And do you want to continue to have those incorporated into the meeting minutes of the select board?
Oh, I see. I mean, I guess that part maybe doesn't have to be because all those committees and commissions have their own minutes.
Right.
So we could eliminate that requirement.
Save some pages in each set of minutes.
Mhm.
I will say, I recently reached out to the, chairs of the committees that I'm liaison for and proposed that I, check in with them before each regular select board meeting to say, here's the one sentence I want to say in the meeting. If you have feedback, let me know. And I sort of made it clear that it's, it's something that comes at the end of the meeting. People are tired. It's not really effective to give a whole summary of a recent meeting. And so like, what's one thing that you want the select board to be aware of? And they seemed okay with that. And I'm not saying that we need to make a policy around that. I'm just sort of putting that out there as a possible procedure of like how you can sort of foster that actual liaisonship by reaching out, saying, here's one point I'm going to share. Any changes to that, let me know.
Sounds like the best practice.
Yeah.
Again, I just ask on my own behalf and Lana's behalf, do you want these reports to be incorporated into the meeting minutes?
I think if you receive them in writing, then they can be incorporated. I don't know if it needs to be required that select board members send them. But I think if someone does that, if someone says, here's one point for each of my committees, I'm gonna just email it to Lana because it's already written out, then it can go in the minutes. I don't see
It is a
reason
record
to.
of meetings. I don't have a strong opinion, sorry.
Okay.
So one of my committees so far has only gone directly into executive session, so that's all I got. It's a very short report.
Okay,
You
well,
could-
I
I
did
mean, you could
ask, that's all.
I'm just saying, even in that situation, you could touch base with the chair and say any one thing that you want the select board to know about.
We went into executive session because you can't say anything that was in it, so that's really it.
Lanny?
I would just put on there that on the select board minutes that links to individual organizational minutes can be found on the town's website. Because if anybody's gonna read the minutes online, they're gonna be able to access that link. I mean, for us to spend, I'm sorry, a lot of time to type up these things, when they're available for people to go and see them. They're all available online. There's no sense in having to duplicate the same wheel. I mean, she's got enough to do as it is.
Mhm.
I would just say links to committees and boards can be found on the town website,
In the agenda center.
in the agenda center. Yeah.
I'm just looking for a count. Do we have 3 others that agree with Lanny?
Sure.
Yep.
I mean, does that preclude what I suggested too? That if a select board member's already typed up really short, not a full summary of the minutes, but just a 1 sentence for each, that we can send that to Lana and she can just put them in the minutes? Is that?
I
Okay.
don't see any problem with that. I mean.
It's not a
we're trying to say
requirement, just.
The liaisons aren't
We must be
required to
really
even go to
tired
the
that we're
meeting.
spreading this
Yeah.
out so
And plus, I
far.
don't even think commission reports are mentioned in this.
I just-
We're right there on the rules of procedure, we can take a vote.
In my mind, it's duplicative and clutters up the minutes of the meeting,
What,
That's what I
doing
say
the-
too.
adding everybody's individual reports. That's just my personal
It
opinion.
adds workload to an individual.
But
that already has
any
one.
liaison is free to
John doesn't want
do
that.
commission.
We will
votes.
honor your request,
I'm not gonna.
but I'm not sure how many of you are there that agree at a certain point.
I will not be a stickler on this. I'm just saying that it's my view that we have room for improvement in terms of committee and select board communication. And I'll just send it there.
Mary?
I've brought this up several times because Lana had told me there's only a certain amount of you who actually do this. And what I don't understand is, I mean, I know we're bringing back things to the board, but if we don't do any announcements to the board, I'm not sure what our role as liaisons is, to be honest with you. I mean, I like the people that I work with, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I agree. I've always wondered, why am I doing minutes, not minutes, but a summary and giving information when other people aren't? And the meeting minutes are being done by somebody else on the committee and the commission. So, I mean, it's been very confusing to me about what's our purpose? What is this all about? And I'm not sure I've had an answer, to be honest with you, so.
I'm sorry, I would just say, Mary, maybe this is something you and I can talk about in terms of visioning a greater purpose for the committee liaisons and talking about it in the future.
No other questions or comments? I'll take a motion to adopt these as recommended. Brandon and then.
Well, I had actually a couple of comments on the rules of procedure.
Okay.
This might be kind of a crazy, it's a comment to try to avoid some kind of absurd legal challenge in the future where like I've read in the rules of procedure, it says responses to voice votes when provided must be
Where are you in the
let's see here.
motions and voting? Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. No, it's important to.
Is this under Dominic's?
No, not under Dominic's, I don't think.
Are you proposing we add something?
Yes, just change it to possibly just change it from yes or no to yes/I or no/nay.
Oh, that, I remember
That
that.
makes sense. I do ask people to say aye.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a crazy legal challenge, and I just thought.
So number 8 under motions and voting, yes/yay or aye.
Aye, no/nay.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought about that too.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't find that quickly. Here's another comment. I just wanted to thank Tim, even though he's gone his way. I just think we do have an opportunity to create a more direct democracy, and I thought maybe I could make a very casual motion to direct the town manager, let's say, to work with the IT staff to be implemented by them and the future communications person on kind of digital ways to seek comment for issues that would come before the board in the future.
That actual.
Yeah, I think I would like to move to see if the board would like to vote. Just a very casual, like, to ask John to.
Can you be more specific? Because-
what we're talking.
Yeah, what do you mean? Because there's a form that people can submit to our emails.
Right. This was more kind of asking for some brainstorming, and I'd be happy to be part of that too, but I wanted to kind of see whether John and or other town staff would have ideas about how better to solicit comment on upcoming. So not just sort of the comment form, but I think maybe timing is kind of an issue for some folks in terms of like our agenda would come out on a Thursday, and then we talk about it on a Tuesday, and they have that 4-day window to write into the form, and maybe just sort of brainstorming ways to improve the form and the placement of it, ways to broadcast over social media that we are accepting comment, and when and on what. Like I said, it would be a very casual thing, not asking for anything in particular.
I would say maybe, because we have a meeting next Tuesday, that you can address this in your select board comments, maybe flesh it out a little bit more, and we can do that. So I think we're off the topic of the rules of procedure a little bit, and I'd like us to vote on this. That's just my thought. Kim?
I would just also add, I'm trying to find whatever the most recent update from HCORI was, but I think a lot of those things are in motion, and particularly in terms of OCR, like searchable documents on the website, the new communications person looking at ticketing systems and ways for people to get better response. Anyway, I think those things are conceptually in motion. And I think John has already gotten direction from the board for that kind of thing.
Sounds good.
I mean, yeah, that's my understanding, including policy digitization, and the community safety review is reaching out to get more feedback from people. The communication person position has their job description included a lot of what I think you might be referring to.
Thank you. Yeah, under order number 7, I have an issue with this raising speech that is irrelevant to the business of the body. Who is it to define the issue of relevance or irrelevance to the business of the body? We are elected as officials within the town of Hartford to represent the public. And if we bring something before the body on a topic that is being discussed, there's relevance. If it's relevant to me or to another speaker at the time, it is undoubtedly relevant to the citizens of the town of Hartford. So,
Sorry, Liam, can you tell what number are you on under order?
number 7 under order. This is no place in here for irrelevant, because who can define relevance?
Well, if we're talking about like a contract to approve, and I start talking about the Red Sox, that's totally irrelevant.
I understand that, but then you're limiting a person's ability to add comment to a discussion topic. So I understand that's irrelevant, but when such as like when I talk about the dump, all right, and I talk about when I was a kid, we used to shoot rats down in there. Okay, people may think that's irrelevant, all right. However, because I have that perspective of being down in the dump and seeing a 30-foot high pile of trash, and knowing that, the landfill was that high and it was immensely wide, that is relevant to the conversation of what we're talking about at the time. And you may feel it's irrelevant, me saying that I'm down there shooting rats, but it's part of the fact of looking at information that's being brought before the committee. That's a point of information. So a point of information is, I think it should be struck from it, because relevancy to you is not relevancy to me. So I think irrelevant should be struck from it. We all know that if we're talking about the landfill, we're not going to talk about sewage treatment. We all realize that. Okay, that's understandable. All right, we're all mature here enough to understand that and professional enough. But if we are talking about a subject such as curbside garbage disposal, okay, we can talk about the dump because that's all within the same context of it. All right. So I think that irrelevance should be stricken from it.
Adam? And Mary?
Okay,
What's?
I think, yeah, I think my thought is what you're describing, Lainey, is relevant, or in that example. And there is the process in place where if the chair says point of order, not relevant, the board can overrule that by a motion in a second. So.
But the problem is that the board, what I have, again, because of my perspective of being a native to the town of Hartford and understanding many things to the town of Hartford you people have no idea about, I bring information that is relevant that you will think is contrary to that. I mean, and any person that may come after me that has been a lifelong member of the town of Hartford has that relevance. And for you to say that it's not relevant, if somebody has something, we're elected to this body, like I say, because we have obviously garnered enough support from our townspeople to be a member of this body. So therefore they know, or they're at least counting on the fact that we're going to bring thoughtful, thought out discussion topics and information to the body to be voted on. And I have a problem with somebody defining what's relevant to a conversation.
Mary?
I think it's much more simple than I feel like you're kind of getting into the weeds, Lanny. I'm sorry. But I think what this is meant to say is, we do post agendas and people then understand what we're going to be talking about. And I don't think that, if you had something to say that anyone has necessarily stopped you. But I think it's what this is about the business that we're discussing that evening. And that's why agendas are posted in advance so that people have the opportunity to think about these issues. And then if they want to bring up some other issue, it would go before, asking to be put on the agenda. So I think that this is much more simple than you wanting to talk about the rats in your basement.
I never said rats in my basement.
Well, wherever it was, in
Obviously,
the dump,
again, you
I'm
were not
sorry,
listening.
in the dump.
So Lanny suggested we strike number 7. Is there support?
I'm not saying strike all of number 7.
Fine, strike the irrelevant
Yes.
portion. Is there any support for it? Just a straw poll.
I just don't know who's going to be able to define relevance to a conversation. I would like somebody to be able to answer that question. How do you determine what is or is not relevant?
I think what Ida cited is appropriate, that if the board calls a point of order that someone's off topic and is being irrelevant, then a member of the board can make a motion and get a second and a majority vote to overrule the chair's point of order. So I think there's a place, there's something in place to balance and check that with the language the way it is.
I'm not seeing any takers on this.
To the point of order.
If there wasn't the ability to override it, I would agree with you. Okay, but I think we have to be able to control the conversation and where it's going.
Well,
It's under.
although I do agree, we have had information that's come, we've had topics that have been not germane to the conversation.
If no one else has any other comments
Yeah.
on the rules of procedure, we could take a motion and vote on this.
I do something else, and I don't know where it falls in the rules of procedure, but in terms of communication among the board, on our previous rules of procedure, we had it listed on there that the chair would report back to the members,
That's in the next item we're taking up,
which is, that's
which is the code of conduct.
kind of, where is
It
that?
includes all the rules of procedure.
So we're
and
doing
our
all that
current
stuff?
Rules that did not show up in Dom's revision, so you can bring that up with that.
Okay, so
Brandon?
Well, I just, I wanted to see the part that Ida was referencing, the part where the majority of a board could overrule the chair's attempt to stop discussion.
that is the problem that we have with this, because we do not have a policy that we're following for, such as Robert's Rules of Order. We're not running our meetings by Robert's Rules of Order because we haven't said we're running our meetings by Robert's Rules of Order. If we're gonna say we can overrule the ruling of the chair, we should have it in writing that we can overrule the ruling of the chair. That's one thing I hate to say I agree with Brandon on.
All right.
Any member may appeal the presiding officer's ruling on a point of order. Number 17,
Oh, wait.
Number 17 under,
under motions and voting.
there's that
17.
somewhere.
Where's that? Motions and voting?
Motions and voting, number 17. Just above public participation section.
Oh, I see it. If appealed, the ruling applies to everybody, majority of total members of the body.
That suffices for me.
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion on this, or do we still have questions, comments? Mary?
Are there any changes?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
few
so it would be
amendments.
as
Yeah,
amended.
as amended.
So,
We would adopt it as amended.
yeah, I move that the select board adopt, the select board rules of procedure, with the amendments.
A second.
Second.
A second from Ida. Any discussion? I'll call the roll. Lanny?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Kim?
Yes.
I will vote aye. So that is 7
Stepping out of
to,
line.
that is 7-0. That passes. Okay, so we've adopted our rules of procedure. Our next item is the Select Board Code of Conduct, which is basically our current rules of procedure that were not addressed by Dom's rules of procedure. And so the question is whether we want to adopt these. So any questions? I know, Lanny, you were talking about one part.
I'm trying to find it, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
select board
What page?
chair,
Yeah,
Of the 32.
30.
Is that started at?
30
It
of the
starts at
32.
30. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
30 of 32. Okay, someone help me find that.
Scroll away.
I don't have a, I don't have a page, oh, here it is. Page 30. Select board code of conduct. Okay, yeah.
So these are all ones that were our current rules of procedure. So we've had them for a while. Questions whether we want to adopt these or make any changes. We'll open it up to discussion. Lanny?
Strike number 4, it's already in our rules of procedure.
Okay, number 4, members shall respect that one.
Yeah, it's already in the rules of procedure.
Okay, so number 4, members shall respect the right of the chair to control the tone and pace. Okay, if it's in the other, Brandon?
Well, my only comment on it is that it seems a little bit maybe to contradict a one part of the previous. So
How does it contradict?
there's a number 5. So it says members shall respect the right of the chair to control to, let's say, to call for a motion to be made. But then number 5 in Dominic's procedure
Under which title?
of the first organization says all members, including the chair and vice chair of the body, are entitled to full participation in its proceedings, including the right to attend, speak, make motions, and vote. So basically, this number 5 says that any member can make a motion at any time without the chair's permission. But then,
Yes.
then, yeah.
That's
Yeah, but
not-
I can call for one. say, I'll take a motion.
This is not contradictory. I mean, this is,
But if you're not calling for it, we're allowed to.
any
move
member
forward.
may call.
Yeah, okay.
They make a motion.
No, I agree. You can call. Yeah, you can call it anytime.
I mean, whenever I do, it's just kind of like, we've had a lot of discussion, and the next step is sort of like, hey, I'll take a motion.
Yeah.
Sure.
To me, the spirit of the rules of procedure number 5 is kind of just acknowledging that the chair and the vice chair can make motions. Like, I think there's been some, over the years, there's been some question of like, the chair shouldn't, should always be last and
Yeah,
shouldn't make a
right.
motion and da, da, da. And I think this is saying that the chair and the vice chair can fully participate.
The problem I see, and I don't know Robert's Rules of Order that well. The problem I see is that the chair is only supposed to rule on a tie,
And what?
on a tie.
But we're not,
We're not using
we have our
Robert's
own
rules.
rules of procedure. now.
And
We just
Dominic
adopted
waved
them.
his big, thick book of rules of order and says, you don't need this. It's way too complex. Here's a document specifically for
This is
you.
cloud rules of order then?
It's our rules of order.
This is
it's
our
not
rules of order.
Robert's rules of order.
So, so I still have that question out there that I think we should strike for.
So you would strike
It's
members.
redundant. It's redundant.
Back the right of, well, the other one is Kim pointed out, makes clear that the chair and vice chair can participate. This one, which we've had, they respect the right of the chair to do the pace of the meeting and the tone and to call for a motion. I mean, I think they're separate.
Yeah.
I could too.
And also that, I think that one even relates more to conduct, sorry.
Yes, but
Like, it's more relating to sort of the
Respect.
dynamic of the chair being in control of the tone and pace.
other
Yeah,
questions
I would
on-
say to keep it.
questions on some of these?
Yes, can I ask,
John,
mention a
yeah,
couple things?
please.
Select board chair, additional responsibilities, number 1. Second sentence says, provide written reports of communication with the town manager.
Yeah.
And vice versa within a week of their occurrence. I don't know that we're doing that now, so if we're not, we probably should get rid of that sentence.
Well, that's the problem I have is so that we don't, as select board members, we don't know a lot of what's happening in town of Hartford because we're not getting the communication. And we haven't, I mean, no offense to Mike, but before Mike was chair, we haven't received anything for updates from the chair for communication between the chair and the town manager as far as activities. Like, I'll give you a prime example of one of the things that gets me is that I am sure that you knew about last week that there was a boil water order in effect. And those are things that hopefully you would communicate with the chair, that there's a boil water. I mean, as the chair of the select board, you should know, but there's also, the rest of the select board should know about it. I heard about a boil water order. And the only reason I heard about the boil water order is that I was sitting in the VFW and I heard about it from one of my members.
I did not
Okay.
share that with the chair either, Lanny, because it was very limited in scope. I didn't feel the need to tell everybody on the select board about
No, I
it.
understand, but if there's, I mean, we were serving water that.
But this related to Queechee, I believe.
No, it was a White River thing.
Oh,
And
maybe I
mean,
missed something.
one of my members saw it on, actually their daughter, I guess it is, sent it to them from South Carolina when she was looking at the town of Hartford somehow. But, and I heard about it from member. I'm just saying that there's things that are happening in the town of Hartford that I get, I'm sidelined by, or I guess I'm dumbfounded by when people approach me and say, hey, what's going on with this? You know, and I'm hearing this right now. I mean, like when somebody said there's a boil water notice and we're serving, ice.
I wonder, for example, whether this South Carolina person owned property in Queechee and told her father, who happened to be in White River, about it, because I'm not aware of any boil water ordinance or order other than that one last week.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I just reading it, I saw that there's boil water and I said, this person approached me and said, hey, this boil water order, are you, aware of that? And no, I have no idea. And those, I mean, just, it seems to me that there needs to be better communication as far as what's happening. And yes, that's probably going to increase our email a lot, but if there's something happening within the town of Hartford, a Hartford Select Board member should not be blindsided by somebody within the community saying, hey, what's going on with that?
I certainly can't predict everybody's behavior in Hartford and when they're going to come to a select board member about a random topic.
I
But I
understand
do
that.
think that between the town manager's reports, the SIGACs that you receive from every department head, and the occasional email, which I will send your way about a police standoff, for example, are important examples of how I try to communicate important things happening in the town.
No, I understand, but there are, I mean, it just seems like I've
You might have a
been,
different threshold as to what's important enough to
Well-
communicate, and we can discuss that.
it just seems like I've been sidelined by things, by people asking me questions about, what's happening here, what's happening there. It's like, first I've heard of it,
I feel like this provision is just, it's kind of unnecessary. First of all, because when John sends out an email to the whole board about something happening in the town, like a standoff or something, like that's the first time I'm hearing of it. He's keeping the whole board informed. It's not like he's telling me and then either failing to follow up. And then the only other time I really talk to John is when we do our weekly or bi-weekly agenda meetings, and then you get essentially the written report of that in the agenda. So I don't even know if this is,
well, I understand.
this has basically been observed in the breach
But
the entire time.
But you're looking at your role as chairman, and that's your role as chairman. But there's also these roles, you have to look at the fact that these code of conduct rules and rules of procedure are going to be in the future. So what you do currently is different than what the person,
Well, I
comes
guess
after you may do.
the
And
question is, do we want to keep this in, or do we think it's unnecessary? I mean, John and I don't have conversations really about town business where we don't follow up with the rest of the board. So, I mean, I just don't, I don't really have.
it's just that it keeps the board informed of things that are happening within the town. If you send out, once a week is not to me, it's not a big deal.
Literally, there's nothing that I know that's going on that you guys don't know. I mean, John's very good about keeping us all informed about everything.
Apparently
Yep.
not everything, but
Yeah, I mean, I would also suggest striking it and basically just asking John to keep the board as well informed as is reasonable.
So when you send something to the chair, you automatically send it to the entire board?
Except for the draft agenda.
yeah, I mean, I could probably think of an example or two here or there, but generally speaking, I've always viewed the safe course and the fair course to all of you members to, if I'm going to send a piece of information to one, I want to send it to all. That's generally my approach.
So when you just mentioned draft agenda, you mentioned that, and this like the ceasefire proposal. The first I heard about it is when it came out on Thursday, and we're supposed to have a collaborative approach towards agenda setting.
So that's another area of this we can take up after.
I'm just saying that's part of the communication thing, though, that I don't see that's happening in a good manner. I mean, it's all about community. Let's face it. When we have breakdowns on this board, it's all about lack of proper communication. That's where the breakdowns happen. The better communications you can have, the more effective you can be. And there's no such thing as enough communication.
Can we take a 1-minute break or 2-minute break? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll take
Okay.
a 5-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
So I can just ask
Danny, go
that
ahead.
that just stay in there because it's not hurting anything as it stands. Number one, on select board chair additional responsibilities, it's not doing any harm. And if we're getting the reports that the communication that we should, there's no reason to take it out. It's not hurting anything. Do no harm. So
Anyone have any other suggestion or are we okay with this?
With keeping number one in or taking it out on the,
Keeping it, Lanny just proposed we keep it in.
it's because it's not harming anything.
no, but the provide written
People want
reports
a
of
written report from
communication
me,
seems.
it would literally be, hi, everyone, I did not talk to John this week, most of the time. That's what people want and expect me to do.
Well, within,
That's not
no,
how I
that's the problem is
interpret
that within a week of their occurrence means that if you have, you send us out. If you haven't, we don't hear nothing. We hear nothing. So if you hear something, if you have a significant conversation with John, within a week of that, you let us know. If you don't, there's nothing. So it's easier for you.
I mean, just to be clear, Lanny, because I think at one point you were referring to the agenda setting meeting, so what?
Well,
That's a different.
that's a different topic.
Oh, I thought you were also, like, I thought you were relating that to what gets on an agenda. I mean, like, that is, any board member can at any time request an item to be on an agenda. And if another organization or staff or whatever asks to be on the agenda, and then we get notified by being, the agenda being.
Well, I would hope that if we have something like a ceasefire resolution that comes before the board, that it would be recognized that it's a controversial issue and that we would have a heads up on it before it comes out on the, press release to the entire community. That would be.
Well, John usually sends us the agenda before they're
I
released
send
publicly,
you
doesn't he?
a draft agenda, which we discuss, and ultimately, we publish the agenda that the leadership wants me to publish.
Yeah, so
The next day.
So would it be wrong to just send that draft out to everybody? I mean,
Doesn't he usually send the draft?
I send it just to
agenda
you
out?
and Kim,
Yeah.
because you two.
But you have before, after we've had our agenda meeting, sent it to everyone before it was posted.
Oh,
After
yeah,
the agenda.
yeah,
setting.
Lana, sometimes I think
Yeah.
we'll post just the agenda and then
Right.
later the packet that goes with the agenda.
just what,
But it's too
what,
late to change it at that.
Okay, well, let's get back to the select board chair additional responsibilities, number one. Do people want it in there or do they want it out? I don't really care either way. If I ever have a discussion with John that he doesn't fill everyone else in on, I will send it out to you within a week.
that serves the purpose of this responsibility. That's
Everyone
fine.
okay with that? Okay, so what else in our rules of procedure or code of conduct do we want to discuss? Kim?
I guess we just talked about this a little bit. My questions for this under number 3.
Under what?
Number 3.
Sorry, and no, where is it? I think I listed it wrong. I'm looking at select board chair, additional responsibilities. I guess, sorry, I'm looking at my notes from a couple of weeks ago when this was first coming to the agenda. Basically, my question was, what does, quote, using a collaborative process mean? Could this be clarified to include something like members may submit requests to the chair for consideration of future agenda items, unquote. Consider eliminating this item altogether since it's addressed in the agenda section of the rules of procedure, or at least mimic the language in the rules of procedure. So, apologize. I'm gonna go back and look at it. See
You're trying to find definition of collaborative?
Yes. Okay, so yeah, it's number 3 under select board chair additional responsibilities. The chair shall set the agenda for any meeting of the select board using a collaborative process. So I'm basically just suggesting that we specify that more by saying members may submit requests to the chair for consideration of future agenda items.
If
That's
I
a
may-
lot like the rules of procedure,
Right.
agenda is number 1.
All right, so
Well, this does put a heavy load on you that you have to ensure that we participate. What if we say no, right? I mean,
way we've done it
it's
is-
weird the
is
way it's written.
People who want something on the agenda, board members, let me know or let Kim know, and we bring it up at the next
Yeah.
agenda.
But you have to ensure participation of everybody.
Well, see, I'm gonna call you up.
It's not a job I would take on.
So,
So we could.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
strike it.
Lanny?
yeah, one of the things that I think that would be help with this is that if a draft was sent out to everybody, that we could have a chance to weigh in on what's coming before the agenda setting meetings. And that would be a plus to ensure that we're having that participation. That ensures that participation element has been provided for us prior to the agenda setting meeting. That would fulfill the terms of this requirement.
Prior to the meeting?
That's what John sends out. Don't you send out a draft prior to the meeting?
Like an
Gonna
hour
say
before
prior
the
to the
meeting.
select board agenda. Yeah, I was
Yes.
gonna make that point, that our window is usually an hour
And
and a half.
but that's, well, you're still ahead of time, okay?
And what, he
So-
sends it out to everyone, and then in the next 45 minutes, you get back to us, your thoughts on it?
Well, the thing is that there are many times that we see something come before the select board by way of Lana putting out to us on Thursday that we would want to weigh in on before it gets put out to us and before it even gets on the agenda.
I mean, at some point, someone's gotta decide. I mean, when I
Well, I understand
when I
that, but
wasn't
if you-
chair, I'd get the agenda, I'd be like, okay, that's what we're doing.
But what I'm saying is that if you put it out there to people, they could say, well, hey, what are we doing this thing on? This has no place on the agenda. You know,
I don't,
So are the agenda setting meetings open to all members of the board?
no. 'cause
No,
there's
we got
more.
quorum.
Okay, never mind.
And same
Yep.
discussion on the agenda, like, I mean, there's situation in which the hour before the agenda setting meeting, when John sends me and Mike the draft agenda, he could potentially send that to the whole board. Board members individually could chime in to the chair who sets the agenda and is in control of setting the agenda and say something simple like, I don't think we should entertain a ceasefire resolution on the agenda. That's fine, take that input, but the chair still controls the agenda setting with the town manager. So
but
if
that's
you feel like that would
collaborative.
be, huh?
But that is collaborative. That's the whole definition of the
So
term.
I'm saying
collaborative.
that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, someone's gotta set the agenda.
We could create the discipline of saying that by 10:30 on that Wednesday, we send the draft agenda to everybody. And then we have our meeting setting the agenda at noon, which gives you all that 90 minutes that you could be monitoring your device if you want to chime in.
Sure. I mean, do we need to change anything in the procedure to do that, or is that just something you can do, John?
Yeah, do it.
I mean, basically, that would be the collaborative process.
That
Yeah.
would serve the purpose of fulfilling that requirement.
Okay. Anything else on these?
Uh,
Do we still have the language about maintaining cordial and respectful relations? In any of these documents? Because that was one of
Number
the
4,
main
the
things.
chair shall control the meeting, setting a respectful tone, appropriate decorum, shall ensure meetings are run professionally, and everybody behaves civilly with no personal attacks.
Yeah, there was something in the rules of procedure, a general statement that all select board members had to maintain cordial relations with each other.
Yeah,
It's sort of not being there. I don't know if it's,
it should not be in there.
why
I
not?
mean, I think it's more code of conduct than
It's
anything,
more code of conduct.
but I think it could be in both, and we've already, I mean, this is something that I think.
I don't see it in this code of conduct.
The word cordial is only appearing in the existing or current procedure.
Yeah.
I think the other document isn't searchable.
Oh,
That's why you're not finding it. I mean, I'm not sure if it's there or not, but I don't think that document is OCR. Which is a bane of my existence.
So, I mean, I guess the question is whether we want that in one of these as well, whether we want it in the code of conduct.
Yes.
So the original language, I think we have it. We have our current one. We have the current rules. It should be right at the rule on, or it's up in here. To maintain cordial and cooperative relations with their fellow board members, town employees, and fellow Hartford residents. That's a general duty. the Hartford Select.
In the old one.
In the old one.
Number
The
eight.
question is whether we want to carry that over to the new code of conduct.
I'm trying to find it.
Lanny, it's that number 8.
It's under current procedure at the beginning of the rules of procedure packet.
The current one, but not the one we just adopted.
The May 2019 one.
Mike's suggesting salvaging that
Into
and
the
putting
code.
it into the new code of conduct.
Right, which it is in here.
Where?
Who,
I don't see it in the new code. of conduct.
The chair shall be in control of each.
Not just the
No,
chair,
not-
every, it's an
not
obligation
everybody.
on everybody.
I see what you're saying.
my question with this is, who defines cordial and cooperative relationship? That's a very open-ended statement.
Well, I think it's just an ideal we all strive to.
What's cordial
Right.
and cooperative for you may not be cordial and cooperative for me, though. That's the thing is when you have terms like this, you have to define those terms.
This is just a general, like,
There are different dictionary
goal.
definitions of those terms.
I know.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
undefinable.
The same thing would apply as with the irrelevance, like if there is a point of order that someone is not being cordial or not being respectful or attacking other, members of the public or members of the board. The chair can call a point of order, anyone can call a point of order, and if there's question about whether or not it is acceptable behavior, then the board can take a vote on it, just like with the question of
And then what?
irrelevance. And then we try to behave more respectfully.
It's just like, it's just sort of an ideal we strive to is to be cordial with one another, and not insult each other.
Which is getting harder and harder as we belabor
I
this
know.
issue.
So any thoughts about reincorporating that to the code of conduct?
I'm in favor of it. If you have the right
One in
wording.
favor,
I support that.
I'll support it too.
okay,
As
and I'll
well.
support it, so,
So that's maybe number 9 at the end of that list. Of
yeah,
things.
sure.
Okay.
Any other questions on the code of conduct before we hopefully take a vote on it?
Let me go back to my question.
I just have a general
Yes, Anna.
technical suggestion that for both of these documents, it'd be great if they could just be consecutive numbers all the way through, so it's less confusing when we're reviewing this every year. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Instead of 1 through 10 and then starting at 1 again, just have,
Well, it'll have page numbers, right, when it's a separate.
Yeah.
document, 'cause that's not easy. to
page
read.
numbers and consecutive numbering will just help when we
Yeah.
are discussing this at future years.
Okay.
Yeah, works for me. Good.
I don't think this is in here, but I had made a note to consider indicating that individual board members can ask for information from the town manager, but that the town manager can only be directed to action by a majority of the select board. And I think this is something that has definitely come up, whether it's during a meeting or not during a meeting, where an individual board member can request information from the town manager, but cannot direct them to action unless directed by the board. Does that make sense to
That's been
people?
our sort of operating policy.
But is it articulated here in particular anywhere? I don't think it is.
Number 5.
Number 5, members may contact the town for any information that is necessary for their duties. That's for employees, so I guess. So this is about managing town employees, so that kind of, I guess maybe if we can,
I don't understand what you're looking for that's not covered in there.
I think what her idea is if I were like, hey, John, go look up all this stuff and come back to us, like that would take a majority of the board to actually direct him to do that.
and this has very
That's how we-
specifically has
Yeah,
come
this
up.
is how we've done it before.
No,
That-
sorry.
That would,
so wait,
that would be
wait,
an
wait, what-
information gathering, which is allowed by one board member, but directives other than information gathering would be require the full. board.
And even the request for information gathering to be.
That's what I thought, yeah.
To be honest, I think it is a request, but the individual board members, if I'm understanding correctly, and maybe I'm wrong. Like, if I say to John, I need you to get me every ordinance that the town has ever produced for this many years or whatever, that might be an unreasonable request for information. And if it's something like that, that the town manager's kind of like is feeling like that might be a little unreasonable, that's when you go back and if the board member says to the board, is there a majority support to direct the town manager to get this information? Then I think that's the distinction. It's not to say like, I mean, we all probably ask too much of John anyway, but if it's like, I can't find this document, can you help me find it? John is probably gonna do his best to find that. But if it crosses a line into, gathering information ends up taking more time than is reasonable of the employee of the board, not of individual members. Like John is not our personal assistant for things. Does that, I
And
want
I did make that clear early on in my tenure, in my kind of introductory remarks, that if I find a request too burdensome or inordinately so, I will ask that the full board ask me to do such a thing.
and is that explicit enough just with that, or do we want to include something like that in here?
I think it's fine the way it is, and I think John has demonstrated how he can stand up
Yeah.
to us when he needs to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, even if we just said like recognizing that employees. Okay, if the rest of the board is fine with it, but I think that distinction is important, and
It is made very distinct, and it isn't made as important.
it's in here as for employees, like not individual board members directing John, but for individual board members, like saying, calling up the planning department and saying, I need you to provide the maps for these 27 property
Planning
lots.
department are employees of the town, so
Right,
therefore you
so
are not.
that's what number 5 is specifying,
Yes, you
so
are not
number 5
authorized
is
to do that.
covering that, but it's not covering individual board members. Anyway, I'm fine, if the board is.
Yeah, because I don't understand why we would think we had the right to do that.
Because it has happened a number of times.
And it didn't, I would hope that
I'm
the
talking about
manager
also-
said, no, that's not my job.
I'm also talking about previous administrations. so-
Yes, so I'm saying,
Okay, we're good.
let's be
Well, we could-
reasonable
we could-
people
I mean,
here.
we could have something in there because we're, that says, I agree with you, Kim, that could say the town manager may, at their discretion, bring to the board any requests that they feel should be considered by the board as a whole.
How people feel about that?
I like how.
No,
these
I feel like he should just be able to say, no, that's not my job.
Which is just what that
John
says, it's
can
just
do that.
formalized.
Yes,
One day
right.
we won't always have John.
Right.
What?
Well, I'll be going by
I
that.
missed the memo.
They're gone
I missed the
already.
memo.
That's exactly the point I was gonna make, is that we don't make policies or procedures for specific people. We make them for the position.
Yes, and if we have unreasonable people who are gonna keep doing that, then I guess we need it. But I would like to think we're more reasonable than that.
You might be wrong.
Jeez.
Well, or not just us, but future board members.
You just read the rules. The rules tell you can't do that.
Brandon?
I also would say that these are two separate questions. One question being, should we have something in here that says only the full board can direct, other than information asks? And the second question is,
Why are we muttering the waters so much when they're clearly?
the second question
They have
is,
questions they wanna discuss.
the second question is, should we have something in here that says the town manager should feel free to push back on unduly burdensome requests, asking the full board for an ask?
I think,
So there are two different things.
no,
Leave
I
it
think
the way
what
it is.
Ida said is what I'm looking for.
The unduly burdensome
Which is
portion.
what? What did you say?
The town manager may bring to
I
the
don't-
board at their discretion a request for direction.
Can he not do that now?
Okay, all right, skip it.
That's why I'm saying, I mean, that's the relationship
Okay.
here.
Fine, happy to move on.
It's just making it explicit, it's just putting it in, so it's.
They have the ability to push back against any one of us at any time and say, I believe that needs to be a discussion among the board.
There's
We have to have a manager that has enough food spot
There's one hand up.
to be able to do that.
Okay, let's hear from the person on Zoom.
Joyce, you can go ahead.
Joyce? Hi Joyce, are you there?
Like Greece.
Maybe not.
Okay, Joyce chimes in, we'll listen, otherwise, I mean, I'm perfectly happy to take a vote on this as amended.
Chairman,
Yes,
well, first off, where we stood on this before I say that. Leaving it as it is, right?
I mean, I think we can revisit. I think we're at this point right now where we're trying to write stuff on the fly.
Just leave it.
Maybe we just let it be for the.
Leave it alone. It's okay. So we're leaving it alone.
We have the added number 9 to the additional responsibilities with the cordial language.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the only.
So John's got it as amended, so I think it would be a motion to adopt the code of conduct as amended. If anyone would like to make that motion.
Yes, I would like to make that.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did you get the motion, John, on that?
I did.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. It's like that
Maybe
is-
did you vote?
No, I did not vote.
Okay. so
Yes,
Thank you.
You are
Apparently
voting yes, or
it's,
yes, you didn't vote?
yes, I'm voting yes.
Okay, well, all right, so that's unanimous. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll take a second.
Second.
Second from Ida. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Select board members, tomorrow, Public Safety Complex tour at 4 o'clock. Even if you didn't sign up, and we have signups from Lanny, Ida, Brandon, and Kim, even if you didn't, feel free to join us at 4 tomorrow.
Just